Luca is not alone. Here is a virus. It is a phage with its DNA encased in a protein coat called a capsid. Its body is a tube, wrapped in sheath with spikes for legs to attach itself to a host. The virus is barreling toward Luca, and it just caught its target. The virus has latched itself onto Luca and is now infecting them by injecting its genome into the cell. The virus hopes, and I use the word hope a bit loosely here, that its genetic material will encounter an RNA polymerase while in the cytoplasm. So this way, the cell will transcribe its genetic sequence, where it can then hijack the ribosome for translation, and out comes proteins that will build a new virus body, and thus the virus will have successfully replicated. Instead, the virus bumps into a cascade complex containing Cas3, which is how the viral genome will be degraded and destroyed. The cell's CRISPR immune system, a form of adaptive immunity, is located on its circular chromosome and has genes coding for the Cas proteins that will defend against repeat offenders like this virus. Unique to Luca, Cas1 and Cas2 are seemingly absent according to researchers, so it's a bit of a mystery how Luca is acquiring the invader sequences for future identification, like fingerprints or mugshots, because that is typically the role of Cas1 and 2. Regardless, Luca has the spacers from previous invaders and is immunized against any virus with those same spacers that attempt to hijack the cell. The cascade complex then roams until it is able to target and bind the viral DNA by matching its sequence. Once binded, Cas3 degrades the target, chopping them up into little fragments so they can no longer be transcribed. This CRISPR system is not nearly as advanced as many modern-day CRISPRs, where they can simply splice the strand at one spot in methodical fashion using Cas9. Cas9 also seems to be absent in Luca, so Cas3 more barbarically degrades the entire viral genome. The CRISPR system won and Luca survives, only to die later by friendly fire. See, Luca did not have the ability to recognize PAM. PAM is the proto-spacer adjacent motif, which is just the adjacent sequence to a spacer sequence within an invader. This sequence would be different from Luca's adjacent sequence in their genome, and would allow Cas3 to distinguish between self and non-self. So at some point, Cas3 saw a spacer sequence and immediately went in to degrade it, but it was actually the sequence incorporated into Luca's genome. So Cas3 attacks Luca, degrading their genome and ultimately killing them. This is called autoimmunity. Thankfully, Luca already reproduced, and future generations carried on. In my opinion, there are two empires for life on Earth: cells and viruses. We have studied Luca and built a pretty strong picture of who they were using evidence and groundbreaking research. We've established that Luca was not alone and had formidable enemies in viruses, which almost certainly predate Luca. These guys still coexist with us today and plague us in many ways. But we also discovered we could exploit their techniques and methods to intentionally edit and improve our own genomes. So maybe it's not all bad. None of this, however, describes where life itself came from, the origins of life. And that is where our investigation leads us next.